he's making plays outside of the tackle box. Like, he's working down the line of scrimmage, chasing backside with effort. It's like, wow, this guy is something else.
I don't think you could tell the story of this year's NFL draft cycle without telling the story of this man right here, Jordan Davis, defensive tackle from University of Georgia. 6'0", cut to 341. 34-inch arms, ran a 4.78, not a typo, 4.78 verified at the NFL Combine. So, Dre, what's the ceiling and what's the floor for Jordan Davis as an NFL player?
I think the floor for Jordan Davis is that he's a day one starter in either an even or an odd front scheme. I think there's a number of things he can do from a physical standpoint which makes him appealing. Right? I think he showed at Georgia he can play the 1, he can play the 3. He can do a ton of different things on the interior, and that made him so appealing. He is impossible to single block. He really holds the point of attack well. He creates a new line of scrimmage with his power rush. And this is someone who, coming into the season, I thought was more of a two-down guy. And during this past year, I think he showed that he has some value on third down, predominantly as someone that can bull rush and get his hands up in the passing lane if he doesn't get home. So I think he has true three down value. This is someone that commands the double team. He makes everybody around him that much better because you've got to give him the attention that he deserves. He makes the entire front better, and just an all-around great player.
Yeah, I mean, I echo what Dre said. I mean, for a guy to be that big but possess that amount of athleticism, and we're talking about one of the rarest athletic profiles we've ever seen. I mean, his combine is going to go down in the history books, but his film is just as good. You know, as Jay mentioned, he's impossible to single block. He takes on double teams really well. Just an outstanding run defender. His ability to extend and separate against blocks, locate the football, and I think he has excellent range working laterally down the line of scrimmage, which is something I think he showed this year. And that kind of speaks to that 4.77 or 4.78 that we saw, because he's making plays outside of the tackle box. Like, he's working down the line of scrimmage, chasing backside with effort. It's like, wow, this guy is something else. And, you know, I think a lot of his critics and the naysayers will say, okay, well, how's his conditioning? You know, are we going to be able to get 80 snaps of him out per game, or is he only going to be a 30-snap type of player? And I would say, worst case, even if he is a 30-snap type of player, I'll get an impact from him on those 30 snaps. And so, to me, he's somebody I'm really high on. I think he has a chance to be one of the best players coming out of this class. And I think he's firmly in that first round, top of the first round discussion.
He's going to be a linebacker's best friend, especially on those run downs. He's going to keep those guys clean, allow them to scrape. He's going to command those double teams. How can you not, being in that big, that massive, that offensive linemen don't even hesitate to dual block him immediately? You have to account for him, which allow his linebackers to not only stay clean and scrape sideline to sideline, but then they can fit through those alleys and those holes that he will force those offensive linemen to vacate.
Listen, I like what you said there about his run defense and his range as a run defender. You talk about A-gap defenders, and a lot of times it's just like stout dudes that can occupy space. Jordan Davis can work up and down the line of scrimmage, and that's one of my favorite things about him. Now, you bring up the conditioning, and I think it's a worthwhile talking point because we've seen teams really attack this. Alabama, obviously, SEC championship game where they went tempo, they kept him on the field, and the guy was gassed. He couldn't help the team, and that's a little bit concerning, especially because a big reason why he went back to school his last year was to show that he could be a player in better shape that can make more of an impact rushing the passer. And I don't know that he did that in 2021. And so my concerns with Jordan Davis go back to conditioning. They go back to weight management, where he's fluctuated quite a bit, up to 380 pounds. And then, what is his rush upside? And so, you talk about a guy that's that big and that explosive in terms of size and athleticism, but it didn't show up to me when I watched him play at Georgia. I thought his impact rushing the passer was below average. And I know that, you could talk about the context of the Georgia defense, and they have a lot of other good players that can get after the quarterback, but he still rushed the passer. He didn't play third downs. He He played like 2% of Georgia's third downs this year, which I don't like saying that because he didn't play third downs that he wasn't used to rush the passer, because he was, because teams throw the football on other downs besides third down. Like,
Absolutely.
can we please be mindful of that? He got rush opportunity and the impact was minimal. So I think he's got the opportunity to get better there because the size and athleticism is insane. But I think he's got some questions to answer that I don't think anything can answer them other than how he applies himself moving forward. But what's the phrase say? The best indicator of future behavior is past behavior, and that gives me some concern when it comes to Jordan Davis.
I agree 100% with that, Joe, and we started this conversation off talking about his floor, and I believe Dre correctly identified his floor. His floor is a starter, right? But I think his draft position is going to be dictated off what teams feel as though his ceiling is. And that's the biggest trouble that I have is, like, what is he, right? We know that he's 6'6", 370 pounds sometimes, runs a 4.78, but what is he, right? Like how does he most, like, impact your team? I know me and Dre have had conversations about this guy that he may not show up in the stat box, right? Just as far as how many stacks he would get, sacks he would get because he would be eating up blocks. So for me, it's like, okay, am I drafting a Pro Bowler or am I drafting a starter?
Yeah, I think if he's gonna live up to the hype that has really built around him, you have to get this version of Jordan.
Yeah.
You have to get the NFL Combine version of Jordan Davis, who's playing at a more competitive weight as compared to being at Georgia. Joe, I know you had heard whether it was Kirby or Jordan himself talk about what he was playing at this season in stretches of the year, and he was up in the 360s and the 370s.
I think that is certainly a cause for concern because of his age, right? He's young, and it's easier to knock pounds off when you're younger. But when his metabolism starts slowing down, that's definitely something to watch. So I think that's certainly a cause for concern.
So it's interesting having us talk this out because we did get both sides of the fence, right? I mean, there's the high level of enthusiasm that we all obviously share. He's an 84.17 for us, so he's a highly graded player for our collective group. But you can probably piece together which amongst us has a little bit more apprehension as far as what the projection looks like for him, just based off the tone of the conversation. That's what I think is really valuable about the way that we do things, because we're all standing around here. We have an average grade, a consensus grade, but we don't see eye to eye on Jordan Davis exactly what he is. But that's the beauty of what we do and how we present the information, because we'll come back next year and somebody sitting at the table is going to have an opportunity to dunk and be like, oh, well, remember what you said about Jordan last year. So guys, make sure you check out the Draft Network next year and find out who that is. But Jordan Davis, one of the best interior defensive linemen in this year's class, no doubt, regardless of where he lands. And we're going to figure out exactly what this ceiling is in the next couple of years.